This edition of Black Nouveau contains a segment from the Finding Work Initiative, supported in part by grants from Goodwill Industries and Manpower.
The Ugandan Orphans Children Choir.
Next on Black Nouveau.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of Black Nouveau. I'm Milton, Dockery.
And I'm Faithe. We're glad you could join us. This week, we'll continue our discussion of the dangers of breast cancer among African American women.
We'll chat with author Tananarive Due and discuss ways to ease Milwaukee's employment crisis with Reggie Newson, Deputy Secretary for the State's Department of Workforce Development.
But first, the Ugandan Orphans Choir is composed of 10 children who are touring the United States to raise awareness of and sponsorship for other orphans. Liddy Collins has that story.
You're hearing the voices of hope, voices that have traveled the United States to perform in schools, museums, churches, like here at the First Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. These young people are traveling in order for others to have a future. They are the Ugandan Orphans Choir, sponsored by Child Care Worldwide, an organization that operates homes for orphan children in 8 countries. What is the mission, the purpose of this tour, of this choir?
The mission of the organization is to provide education for children around the world, and doing that by providing hope through the children that we've brought to America, showing the need that's around the world, and hopefully gaining sponsorships for an education for children. We chose to choose children from Uganda because of their talent, their health, and the way that they present themselves. And they come over in America and they get to show what America, or how Americans can help through sponsorship and providing education for children.
All of the children in the choir are orphans through loss of parents from the AIDS epidemic plaguing East Africa, or a car accident, to a parent leaving them at the organization because they could no longer care for them. They all have a sponsor, which means someone has pledged to pay for their living expenses and education through the end of high school. Their role through the choir is to interest people in sponsoring other children in need.
We don't have enough resources for the people. Yeah.
At our village, we have too many people, and there are too many children. And some children don't have parents.
What have they learned coming here? What's been exciting to them?
I think what they've learned that's been really exciting is about how to adapt with culture.
New behaviors.
New behaviors?
And I learn new games and new songs.
Any new foods?
Yeah.
What foods do you like?
Spaghetti. Pancakes.
Why pancakes?
Because they are good.
Because it's sweet?
Because, yes.
Julius enjoys the traveling, playing, swimming, learning to play the piano and soccer. He likes American traffic.
In our villages, we don't have a lot of cars, we don't have the big buses, so I like it because I have big bus traveling.
How do you feel riding on the big buses?
Good.
These children are from the Faithe Island, located on Uganda's Lake Victoria. They are a long way from home, a long way from what may have been a troubled life. Now they have a life full of experiences and beginnings because of their participation in the Ugandan Orphans Choir.
The choir will perform in Milwaukee on Wednesday, October 19th at 7 p.m. at 3 Holy Women Catholic Parish, St. Hedwig Church, 1702 North Humboldt Street.
Much of the recent economic news has not been good for Milwaukee. Poverty and unemployment are up in the core city. The legislature is currently considering a number of bills aimed at creating jobs for Wisconsin. Our guest, Reggie Newson, is the Deputy Secretary for the state's Department of Workforce Development. Mr. Newsom, welcome, sir.
Thanks, Milton. I appreciate it.
Mr. Newsom, what needs to be done in order for more residents of the inner city to become employed?
Well, job training and skill development is critical, and any individual that's looking for a job out here, and we're trying to work to connect job seekers to jobs, but critical, most critical, we're trying to figure out ways to get people trained for these jobs.
Okay. Now, what type of services does your agency offer in order to make that happen?
Well, we provide a lot of different services. We can help job seekers with resume and cover letters, developing those, also interview skills, interview tips, as well as job searches. And we also provide and link them up with the technical colleges and the workforce development boards to get employment training.
In those areas, have you noticed those skills lacking, such as resume writing, things of that sort, or are they pretty level all the way across the board?
Well, we go out and we talk to employers across the state, job creators across the state, and they mention that some of the what we call basic skills need to be developed, which is, reporting work on time, having a good attitude on the job, but also things like, putting together a resume, filling an application out. Those are the things that need to be worked on. And once we can get past some of those soft skills, we want to work with individuals. Employers are willing to work with individuals to get them trained.
Now, once you get past those soft skills, helping them to develop those soft skills, what other services do you have once you cross that barrier?
Again, the main thing that we want to do is connect job seekers to jobs. And I'm going to take the opportunity to mention our website, jobcenterwisconsin.com. Again, jobcenterwisconsin.com. We have over 30,000 job postings on that website currently. So individuals can go out on that website, look for jobs, put their resume out there, and again, employers do the same. And that is a venue where we can connect job seekers to jobs.
Now, you mentioned that website. I think there are about 32,000 jobs on that website. Recently, the Associated Press reported that 18% of those jobs are outside of the state. For an example, in Illinois, I think Iowa, and Michigan, and Ohio. Does that mean that some residents may have to actually go outside of the state in order to become employed in those jobs?
Well, the key thing is that it's a job opportunity. And a lot of individuals commute. I commute. Okay. And if an individual can commute across the border to Illinois and Minnesota to get a job, work, and bring that paycheck back to Wisconsin, that's a good thing.
So this is what you're saying. Do whatever is necessary in order to be employed.
Exactly.
Now, what do you need the residents to know? Because oftentimes it's a lack of knowledge of information. For an example, you mentioned a lot of services that you provide. Many folks may not know about that. So what do residents need to know about your agency in order to help them become employed?
Well, they can visit our website, www.dwd.gov, to find out about all the services that we have. They can go into the local job center site. the Milwaukee Area Workforce Investment Board is the workforce development agency here in the city of Milwaukee. They can go into the location off in 27th North Avenue, and they can go in there. There are computers in there. There are people in there, counselors that can provide them with services, whether it's veterans that are looking for jobs or individuals that have a disability. They can go into that job center to get help on resume writing, connecting them to jobs, training. And I really encourage individuals to take advantage of these opportunities because, as you know, knowledge is power. And we want to provide individuals all the information they need to make informed decisions to connect individuals to jobs.
So just by becoming more knowledgeable about your agency and the website, you can empower yourself, not only by empowering yourself by gaining skills, but having access to employment as well. That's simply fantastic.
Exactly, and we're here taping at the Milwaukee Area Technical College, and this is a tremendous resource for citizens in the city of Milwaukee to come here, get technical training, get skill development, but also do job searches here. I know that the Milwaukee Area Technical College, MATC, provides that service to individuals.
And you know, you mentioned that, but one of the common complaints we hear is that oftentimes people who are unemployed do not have the skills that employers are looking for. You mentioned MATC. We have a variety of programs here, not only at MATC, but technical colleges throughout the state. Talk about your relationship with employers, the technical colleges, in order to get those skills that those employers need.
Well, there's a very close relationship with the technical colleges and employers because the employers do go to the technical colleges to seek the individuals they need to fill these jobs. They also send people that they hire to the technical colleges for training. And again, when we talk to employers across the state, I know the economy right now is not recovering as fast as we wanted it to recover, but there are job opportunities out here. And when we talk to employers, manufacturers, there's been almost 17,000 manufacturers jobs created this year. And manufacturers look for individuals that can read rulers and do basic math and have the skills in welding and CNC, computer numerical control, and tool and die making. And these are all the skills and the trainings that you can get at these technical colleges.
Mr. Newsom, I have about a minute and a half. Two more questions. Governor Scott Walker has called the legislature into session, I think, about twice to consider special legislation to create jobs. Could you talk about some of that legislation that is being proposed that will create more jobs, briefly?
Sure. Well, the governor said Wisconsin is open for business, and the first session we had a legislative session that we tried to create an environment, a facilitated environment for job creators and employers to create jobs. This session right now, currently, we're doing the same thing. There's a number of bills being looked at across different agencies. At Workforce Development, we're looking at a couple different things, working with something we call the Unemployment Advisory Council. That is a council made up of management in the private sector, but also labor unions to come up with proposals to send over to the legislature for consideration. One thing we're looking at is trying to get the unemployment fund, make it more solvent. And I know Representative Mark Honadell, who's a representative in the Milwaukee area, he's looking at a bill called Wisconsin Wins. And it's a bill that tries to get dislocated workers and individuals on unemployment tracked into jobs and trying to help them develop those basic skill sets.
Briefly, if people want more information, how can they get it?
Well, they can go to our website, again, www.dwd.gov, or they can go to the Job Center Wisconsin website, that's jobcenterwisconsin.com, or they can call the Department of Workforce Development or come in and visit the Milwaukee Area Workforce Investment Board.
Mr. Newsom, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
I appreciate it, Milton. Thank you.
Last week, Milwaukee said farewell to one of our community's major documentarians, photographer Harry Kemp.
Since the 1960s, Harry captured the spirit and humanity of Milwaukee's black community while working for the Milwaukee Community Journal, the Milwaukee Courier, the Milwaukee Times, the Milwaukee Brewers, and a host of other publications as well.
He leaves a legacy of 100,000 photographs of everyday people and celebrities, activities and events, and he will be sorely missed by all of us.
You know, I worked with Harry for 20 years.
Faith, what was it like?
It was a wonderful experience, and he was just a master craftsman.
And did you learn a great deal from him?
Absolutely.
And that's something you can never take away from someone.
Not at all. He'll be missed.
Her latest book, My Soul to Take, has just been released. This week, Black Nouveau goes into our archives to talk with one of America's most successful supernatural suspense writers, Tananarive Due.
The ladies of Delta Sigma Theta sorority lined up to meet and greet an author who maybe scares them with her writings. Tananarive Due.
And my books are about optimism. Life is scary. It really is. There are things that happen in everyday life, and as we get older, and the losses that we suffer and the things that we have to face that are very, very scary. So number one, writing supernatural suspense is a writing about things that are scary, but they're not real. You see, there's a difference between what's real, as in you're pumping on your brakes and they won't work and you're barreling into an 18-wheeler, and what's fake, which is like some monster chasing you through your house.
And this audience came for the monster chasing you through the house stuff, also to meet this author of color who decided to venture into the world of scary stuff, an author with a different sounding name.
You have an interesting name.
Oh.
Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, my first name is the capital city of Madagascar. My mother, while she was in college, was taking a course in contemporary Africa. She learned about the nation of Madagascar, and Tananarive was the capital city. It's now called Antananarivo, but at the time it was Tananarive.
Even the last name, Due, though.
Sounds exotic. No, you know, the rumor I have from Due is that it was an Irish name that my dad's side of the family had from Indiana, so I don't know if that's true or not. If someone knows, they can tell me.
You write, I call them spooky books, even though you've changed into some other genres, but why that?
I've just always been fascinated by that feeling of fright. And there are so few circumstances where you want to be afraid in a safe environment, you know, or because most times you're afraid it's not safe. So horror books, horror movies always gave me the opportunity to sort of poke at that place inside me that liked to be scared, but giving me the chance to pull back. And I think on a deeper level, the reason I write it is that my characters teach me so much. I mean, when you think about it, I have characters who have to deal with discovering that their husbands are immortal, for example, as in My Soul to Keep, or in The Between, it's a story about a man who's in between life and death and being chased by nightmares. So I watch these characters face these terrible circumstances and become stronger and grow and rise to the occasion. And really, I'm hoping I can learn from them. That's the whole secret.
The question of mortality inspired her to write her first book, The Between. Her second book, My Soul to Keep, introduced her immortals, asking two questions.
How does a mixed relationship between an immortal and a mortal work? You know, especially when the immortal comes from a society of other immortals who do not like you to mingle with mortals and who have told you, even though you love your wife or child, it's time for you to go back where you belong with your own people. So that's what My Soul to Keep is about. It's really a love story, believe it or not.
The sequel to My Soul to Keep is her most recent novel.
The Living Blood basically asks two questions. Number one, what would the world be like if there were a blood that could heal almost any disease? And if you had that blood running in your veins, you were immortal. You know, that blood will replenish you forever. And also, what lengths would people go to get it is the question. And the second thing, which is really close to my heart, is how do you raise a powerful child? Because I have an immortal child in this book, and she's more powerful than her mother. She's more powerful than anybody. So how do you raise a child who's actually more powerful than you?
Moving from the supernatural, Tananarive Due wrote The Black Rose, a fictionalization of America's first black female millionaire, Madam C.J. Walker. She has also written a book with her mother entitled Freedom in the Family. It tells the story of the personal price paid by the families of civil rights activists in the 60s.
Part of it is from her point of view as a young woman going to college in the South in the 1960s. She didn't plan to become a civil rights activist. I don't think any of those kids planned to become civil rights activists. They were just at a place and a time in history when they got swept into it. She ended up spending 49 days in jail for taking part in the first really jail-in the student sit-in movement, where they wouldn't pay their fines and decided they would stay in jail just for sitting at a lunch counter trying to order a hamburger. You know, that was their crime. But back then, that was a crime. And just the price that she paid emotionally and the other activists paid emotionally. And for me, I was writing about what it was like to grow up in a household headed by two civil rights activists, because my father is a civil rights attorney and my mother was an activist, and growing up in the 80s in integrated neighborhoods, and we faced challenges in integrated neighborhoods that my parents, when they were our age, never faced because they were in segregated neighborhoods. So there wasn't that daily contact, with people who didn't like you.
For those who love to watch as well as read supernatural stuff, there is a movie in the works. My Soul to Keep is headed to the big screen with Blair Underwood acting, producing, and directing, with Lalibela, Ethiopia being one of the movie locations.
We're going to continue our month-long conversation on the impact of breast cancer in the African American community. Last week, we talked with Phyllis Holder from the Sisters Network. She's back this week, and joining her is Dr. Alonza Walker, Medical Director of the Breast Care Cancer Center at Faithe Hospital and the Medical College for Wisconsin. Welcome, Dr. Walker and Phyllis.
Thank you.
Dr. Walker, what are the critical issues that African American women need to know as it relates to breast cancer?
The critical issues, one, they really should do being breast self-examinations. They should have mammograms, and if they're experiencing symptoms, they should certainly consult with their healthcare provider. So those are three key things that I believe should be done for any woman who has concerns about breast cancer.
And why should African American women be concerned about being diagnosed with triple-negative breast cancer?
Well, this triple-negative breast cancer is one that has, one would say, a worse prognosis. And the triple-negative breast cancer is one that does not have the hormone receptors, estrogen and progesterone, and also it does not produce this protein called HER2/neu. Those cancers tend to have a worse outcome or prognosis, and they may be a little bit more difficult to treat.
And are those breast cancers, or that type of breast cancer, identified through one of those critical ways that you talked about, being proactive with mammograms and self-examinations?
Yes, the ultimate way to identify that breast cancer is having had a biopsy of the cancer. We can only tell that by having the biopsy done because it's looked at under the microscope, and these tests are done on the cancer to determine whether or not these receptors are present or if this protein is present. So if you have a complaint and a biopsy is done and it's cancer, those tests are done on all of the breast cancers because we want to identify them.
Okay. Breast cancer being identified for women under the age of 40, how prevalent is that?
Well, it's not a large number of women. Under the age of 30 or 40 for that matter, it is seen predominantly in women who have a strong family history of breast cancer. And it can be seen also in families who have been proven to have the breast cancer gene. So although the majority of the cancers are still not caused by by the presence of the gene, only about 10%. So if it does run in the family based on history, then the woman needs to be very diligent about the breast self-examination, having mammograms, and being examined by her healthcare provider.
And when you say diligent, what does that mean? Is that weekly exams, monthly exams?
No, diligence, I would say, as I perceive it, as I discuss with patients, is at least once per month and perhaps the same time that month.
Phyllis, what support groups are available for families and breast cancer survivors?
Well, Faithe Sisters Network, one of our basic offerings is a family support group. We meet once a month at the Martin Luther King Center at 6 o'clock on the first Wednesday. And we have a complement of other organizations who work with us to provide support. That includes ABCD, after breast cancer diagnosis, Stillwaters, Gilda's Club, and there are a few others that if someone gave me a call, I could give them a list and their contact information.
We are in trying financial economic times. What resources are available for women to get free mammograms?
Faith, there's no reason for any woman who meets the criteria for mammography to not have a mammogram. Over age 40, family history, under age 40. You know, if there's a concern and needs to be, you know, looked at by mammogram, there are programs, including the Wisconsin Well Woman program, that provides free mammography, along with the Wisconsin Women's Health Foundation. And for example, the Columbia St. Mary's mammography coach, the digital mammography on wheels, it provides service at different points throughout our community, and it's sponsored by different individuals. And you could have a free mammogram, you know, like this week it's at the NAACP.
So if people want to get in touch with Sisters Network, share your website before we go.
Okay, thank you. If they want to get in touch with us, the Sisters Network of Milwaukee, our website is sisters4, that's the number 4, cure.org, sistersforcure.org.
Phyllis, Dr. Walker, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you, Faith.
And that wraps up this edition of Black Nouveau.
Remember, in the coming week, do something to expand your world. Good night.
Good night, and thanks for watching.
This edition of Black Nouveau contained a segment from the Finding Work Initiative, supported in part by grants from Goodwill Industries and Manpower.